Hello, friends.
Today, we're going to talk about diglossia and bilingualism. First of all, we want to explain what diglossia is. Diglossia is a characteristic of a speech community, and it describes societal or institutionalized bilingualism.
Bilingualism is a characteristic of an individual's capacity to speak two languages. On the other hand, multilingualism is a characteristic of an individual's capacity to speak more than two languages.
Now, we're going to analyze some situations in which diglossia and bilingualism take place.
For example, in Paraguay, there are two languages that people speak, which are Guarani and Spanish.
Guarani and Spanish in Paraguay are used in different contexts. People use both languages in different situations. For example, they change from Spanish to Guarani or to Guarani to Spanish in different contexts.
We are going to compare some aspects of the two languages based on diglossia, bilingualism, and multilingualism.
As you know, Paraguay is a diglossic community, and in diglossic communities, there are two languages. For example, in this case, in Paraguay, the low variety is Guarani, and 90% of the people speak Guarani. As you can see here, Guarani is very popular in Paraguay. That's why Guarani is considered as a national or official language in Paraguay. It is taught in school. Why? Because it is popular, most of the people speak Guarani, that's why it is taught in school. Also, it is spoken mainly in rural areas. Why in rural areas? Because it is popular, most of the people speak Guarani, so communication is easier. Why? Because most of the people know how to speak this language. Now, another characteristic of Guarani is that it is spoken among friends, servants, strangers who are poorly dressed, in confessionals, telling jokes, making up casual occasions, and spoken among lower class citizens. Why these characteristics are according to Guarani? Well, I will explain them in a brief way. For example, it is spoken among friends because when you're with your friends, you are like confident, then you relax, you don't need to be formal. Now, with servants, because you don't need formality with servants. Essentials who are poorly dressed. Why? Because they are poor and they are not like showing off. Now, in confessionals and telling jokes. Why telling jokes? This is something really interesting. Telling jokes because you need to use like a popular language to be funny. Because if you tell a joke with formality, it is not funny. That's why you need like an informal language. In this case, Guarani is perfect for telling jokes. Now, for making love, this is another interesting point. Now, casual occasions. Why? Because you don't need to be formal in casual occasions. You're supposed to be with people that you know. For example, with your family, with your friends, with your girlfriend, boyfriend. You need to be like relaxed and you can use Guarani. Now, it is also spoken among lower class citizens. Why? Because you don't need to be formal because you're at the same level with a lower class. If it would be a upper class, it would be different to use another language and Guarani. But in this case, you can use Guarani. Now, Guarani is spoken in the countryside because you are trying with people who is not very rich, and you can use this language, which is what I mean. Now, this point is really interesting. Parents around speak Guarani to their children, always when children are absent. Why? Why parents can speak Guarani? Because parents want the best for their children, and they do not want them to speak like a low variety of the language. Okay, they want the children to speak a high variety and not a low variety like what I mean. Now, it shows a sign of male friendship among upper class. Why? Because most of the upper class men speak another language which is not Guarani in this case. They speak Spanish. And if they speak Guarani, they show like a very strong friendship. They show that they are close, that they are confident, that they are like happy to be friends. Now, when outside Paraguay, Guarani shows solidarity. For example, if you go to another country and in that country they speak a different language, for example, English, French, and if a person who knows that you speak Guarani and you address that person with Guarani, you show solidarity. You show that you can comprehend that person and that you are showing solidarity. Okay? Now, males may drink speaking Guarani. Why? Because when males are drinking, they are relaxed, they are in an informal situation, and they can use Guarani because they are supposed to be drinking with their friends, and maybe they are telling jokes when they are drinking. Okay? And if they tell jokes, they can speak Guarani. Now, another point can create a conflict when speaking to parents and young parents. Why? For example, if a child speaks Guarani with his grandfather or with his parents, it's an example, he can create a conflict, a problem. Why? Because it is supposed that when you address to your grandparents or your parents, you need to do it with respect. Then you don't have to use a low variety of the language because you're maybe like in an informal situation where you're talking with someone that you need to respect. That's why you don't have to use Guarani. You can make a conflict, okay? Because your parents never speak with you in Guarani. Then, as a result, you don't have to speak Guarani to them when you want to understand them. And it is supposed that you have to respect more to your parents than your parents to you. Then obviously you don't have to use Guarani when you want to answer your parents. Now, in serious courting, why it is important to use Guarani in serious courting if it is not like a very formal situation? Well, it is very good to use Guarani in serious courting because you are showing that you want to show solidarity, that you want to like to to show your real what you really feel to your couple. Now, what we said before, men tell jokes and talk about women in Guarani. Why men tell jokes and talk about women in Guarani? Because when they are talking about women, they are only men talk about women. There are not women talking about other women. So they are in a informal situation. They are maybe drinking and talking about women. That's why they can use Guarani. Okay? These characteristics are the main points in which Guarani is used.
Now, I'm going to explain you some aspects about Spanish language in Paraguay. Spanish, which is the sole language of less than 7% of the population, it is the official language of government and main of education. People of schools use this language, and furthermore, people that works at any government occupation use the language because it is more formal. Spanish is the official language of the country too, as the Guarani is. Some situations indicate that lesser known language in Paraguay is the Spanish, because Spanish just is, is spoken in certain situations and it is more formal. Spanish is a high variety. For example, at primary school, it is the language used, and Spanish is used in formal situations. That is why Spanish is a high variety in Paraguay. On the other hand, Spanish is the language used in formal occasion. It is always used in government business, in conversation with strangers who are well dressed. People from Paraguay use the Spanish language to communicate with people well dressed because those people show power and formality. People from Paraguay use the Spanish language to communicate with foreigners because they show they are kind people. And for them, the Spanish language is formal, so they prefer to talk with foreigners with formality. People in Paraguay use Spanish in most business transitions, and when people are in a formal context, they will always use Spanish. This language represents formality, and people use it when they are in these kind of situations. Upper class females prefer Spanish in some such circumstances because they use Spanish to demonstrate formality and power. Also, these kind of females know that they are in an upper class, so they prefer to use a formal way to speak. So that's why they use Spanish rather than Guarani. In the case of males, males may drink Guarani but use more and more Spanish. In this case, they feel the influence of the cold, so they feel like in an upper class and they use Spanish. For Spanish, is the language of power. People who feel the influence of alcohol feel like they have more power than others and they use a formal way to express themselves and they use Spanish. Spanish may also be the language they choose to use when addressing superiors because Spanish is more formal than Guarani and there may some conflict in choosing between Spanish and Guarani in addressing parents or grandparents. Why? Because parents use Spanish in front of the children because it is a language used in educational situations, and parents want that their children improve this language because they know the importance of their children know and speak this language. Spanish is the preferred language of the cities. This language is used in most of the cities and it is used in certain situations of formality. Also, the importance of that language at the school made the language be important part of the country. That's why Spanish is preferred in most of the cities. Another important aspect is that parents may attempt to help their children to improve their knowledge of Spanish by using Spanish in their present. After all, Spanish is the language of educational opportunity and it is socially preferred. Parents use Spanish in front of the children because they want to their children show know Spanish because it is the language used in educational situations. That's why parents uh, prefer to use this kind of formality using Spanish because they know children use Spanish in primary schools. Um, Over half of the population in Paraguay are bilingual in Spanish and Guarani. This occurs, but it is most frequently to see in the capital city, which is Asunción. As a conclusion, choose between Spanish and Guarani depends on a variety of factors, location, which is the city or the country, the formality, the gender, the status, then the seriousness and the type of activity and the context people are. Now I'm going to present you a video on where a person from Paraguay speaking Spanish in a formal and serious situation.
Su paciencia al presidente de Paraguay, Federico Franco. Gracias, señor presidente. Teníamos esta noticia de último momento y teníamos que darla a conocer porque ayer, precisamente aquí, en Conclusiones, estábamos haciendo el seguimiento. Bienvenido. Gracias por estar aquí.
Muchas gracias, Fernando. Contento de saludarte a vos y a todos los televidentes de CNN.
Es usted muy amable. Señor presidente, buenas noticias para Paraguay y ese es el motivo que lo lleva de visita a Miami. Dígame usted si se trata de las exploraciones petroleras en el Chaco, el hallazgo de estos pozos petroleros que, bueno, parece que